So I'm very excited for our next guest speaker, Gian Paul Gonzalez. Gian Paul is widely recognized for inspiring the New York Giants to their most recent Super Bowl victory with the phrase "all in." He's been featured on ESPN as well as most notable appearances on Fox News and CNN. We won't hold it against him for this week's game against the Giants. His inspirational talks have made him an internationally renowned speaker for NBA, NFL, the English Premier League, MLS, and Fortune 500 organizations. Gian Paul was a former NCAA first-team All-American forward for Montclair State University, scoring nearly 1,400 points in his 3-year career. He played in the NBA Summer League and was offered a professional basketball contract. Yet he turned it down in order to do his work with at-risk youth. He's the founder and executive director of Hope and Future, an organization dedicated to using athletics and physical fitness to share a message of hope and striving for excellence in inner-city public schools and juvenile jails. So as we approach our Super Bowl next year with commercial launches like Lucelle, please give a warm welcome to Gian Paul, who's going to talk to us a little about All In.
All in. All in.
All in.
All in. All in.
To understand how 2 words
All in.
turned a New York Giants season going nowhere into a trip to the Super Bowl, you got to go back to the night before Christmas Eve. The Giants were 7-7, and they'd lost 5 of their last 6.
I think there's some empty graves out there that people were digging for the Giants.
There was definitely something missing.
That night at a players' chapel meeting,
We had a young guy come in and speak.
He delivered one of the most timely messages that I've had, not only in my football career, but in my life.
his name is Gian Paul Gonzalez, a 9th grade teacher and speaker in nearby Union City, New Jersey. He's friends with the Giants team chaplain who asked him to speak to the team. Were you nervous?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, you go in a room and you see like Eli Manning in the front row, and then you see Justin Tuck, and you see these guys, and you're like, wow.
Gonzalez turned out not to be just a teacher of kids. He turned out to be a teacher of giants.
He kind of put everything into 2 words, all in.
He gave everyone poker chips, had everyone put their initials on the poker chip, and advised us to keep it with us. When you have something that you feel can't be beat, you know, what do? You throw it all in.
The next day, the Giants whipped the Jets 29-14.
Hand off Bradshaw. He's going to run right through a tackle. Touchdown Giants.
Afterwards,
We was all in today. Went to chapel last night, and our speaker talked about all in. And today, you could just tell the Giants was all in.
and before you knew it, All In had worked its way all around the Giants locker room.
It's just something that became, infectious, wanting to give more effort, wanting to stay behind and watch more film.
Ever since then, everybody, all 53 guys, 46 on game day, they're all in.
The next week, they beat the Cowboys, punching their playoff ticket.
The New York Giants are the NFC East champions.
Then the chaplain again sent me a message and said, you wouldn't believe this, but they made towels for the game.
It's not about individual, it's just everybody being 100% dedicated to the team.
Then they dismissed the Falcons at home in the first round of the playoffs, and a week later, they went into no less than Lambeau Field and shocked the 15-1 Packers.
The New York Giants have eliminated the #1 seed Green Bay Packers.
They're all in.
The chip is a chip, but it's our minds, that are powerful. What's going to give you that extra edge? What's going to give you that extra push?
And that's new since you dedicated yourself to All In.
I don't think I was giving it 100%. I might have been giving it 90%. But now I think, for the last 5 weeks, I've been definitely giving it 100%.
The 49ers in San Francisco, the NFC title game, jackpot.
The Giants in overtime have won the NFC championship.
All the way down, to the custodians, to the cooks that we have here within the facility. And when I say all in, I really mean they're all in.
You came up with it. Doesn't that feel great?
It does. But I know it's a lot of tribute to their hard work.
If you win this Super Bowl, what will you do with the chip?
I'll probably frame that chip, in all honesty, and make sure I keep it by me, at all times.
I'll probably keep it next to my Super Bowl ring.
Do you think you'll get a ring?
I wouldn't turn one down.
It is just a tremendous privilege and honor to be with you guys today and just learning about the amazing work that you do. But before I go any further, are there any New York Giants fans here? Okay, we have four and a half, kind of, sort of, yeah. Okay, we'll take it. We'll take it. I guess let's be more correct, being there is some sort of stadium over there. Any Eagles fans? Eagles fan? Yeah. All right. Win a couple of games, learn how to act. It's all right. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Have any Cowboys fans? We got one. There's always one. There's always one. Oh, two. And you're gonna win the Super Bowl every year, of course. And last but not least, do we have any New England Patriot fans? Wow. I guess we'll talk about integrity and cheating later. No, I'm joking. As you guys saw in the clip, you'll know I'm not a professional football player. Sorry for the disappointment. As you saw in the clip, my regular job is teaching 9th grade world history. I am a freshman world history teacher in high school. And so honestly, when the Giants called me up, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a prank. You know, why would the New York Giants call up a 9th grade world history teacher to speak to their football team? I thought it was a waste of time. Honestly, I thought I'm going to talk to Eli Manning about Abraham Lincoln, Julius Caesar. Doesn't make sense. They said, Mr. Gonzalez, we understand what you do. Can you speak to our team, yes or no, this Friday night before we play the Jets? I still think it's a prank, but I figured I live 5 minutes from MetLife Stadium. I could always turn my car around, no harm done. Let's give it a shot. And I remember I pulled up to the security guard gate, and they gave me my name that Friday evening. And they said, Mr. Gonzalez, we have been waiting for you. Park to the right. Start to get nervous. I walk in the team room for the first time, and I remember one of the first players to stand up and shake my hand was a defensive lineman on the team at the time who went by the name Chris Canty. And I remember when he shook my hand, well, just so you know about Chris Canty, he's about 6'9", 320 pounds. And when he shook my hand, I vividly felt his fingers go all the way down to here on my wrist. And I remember he looked down at me and half joking, but still very serious, he simply said, you better tell us something good tonight. No pressure. I spoke to the Giants for 20 minutes, 18 to be exact, because Coach Tom Coughlin was very precise. And I remember when I walked out of those doors for the team, if you had gone up to me and asked me how I thought I did, I would have told you it was a failure. I would have said it was a colossal waste of time. I said maybe the only reason the Giants were paying any attention is because they had a team rule, and it was quite simple. If you're on your cell phone during an official team meeting, you could get fined up to $5,000. As a teacher, I remember thinking that would be great to have in the classroom, but that's not the point. But I'll speak very honestly and say, I didn't have to speak to the Giants to feel that feeling. See, I don't know about you, but there's some days I walk out to my car and I wonder if this is all worth it. Does it really matter? The effort, the work, the time, even the time you put in that no one knows about, nobody sees. The mental energy, right? Because it's still going through your head. Just because you walk through the front door of your house doesn't mean it doesn't stop moving. And we question. Does it matter? I know I do as a teacher with my students. But it's interesting, we don't have to watch It's a Wonderful Life during this season to be reminded of the fact. It does. In our words and our actions, not just to those out there, but in here, they do make a difference. A pat on the back, a recognition, that was really cool. That was really cool. I see people do recognition in email, but not actually take time in the meeting. That's cool. I respect that. It does matter. And I remember when I got to my car, I honestly thought the Giants could care less about a 9th grade world history teacher and what he would have to tell them as millionaires and professional football players. But just like most of us, we underestimate our impact. And I was wrong. They happened to win the next game and the next game, and the team called me up and said, Mr. Gonzalez, we qualified for the playoffs, and I think it's what you told us 2 weeks ago in that team room, you know, we're all in, we're gonna make towels for our game against the Falcons in the playoffs, and I said, well, you're professional athletes. You're paid to do that. I doubt it's anything I said, but they continue to win. They win the next game and the next game. Pretty soon I start getting calls from news agencies to be on their show, early in the morning because I told them I had to be back in time for homeroom for my high school. And, then ESPN pulls their whole entire production truck in front of my high school, and my kids are getting excited saying, wow, Mr. Gonzalez, you're going to go back to the NBA. I was like, no, I'm too old. I'm too old. But they said, Mr. Gonzalez, we'll take that piece you just saw, and if the Giants beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, we'll play that Super Bowl Sunday in front of the world. Giants go on to beat the 49ers. They make it to the Super Bowl against your Patriots. And I remember I got invitations to actually attend the Super Bowl, with the team. But I knew if I went to the Super Bowl on their time schedule, I was going to miss teaching my students for at least 5 days. And as a good teacher, I just couldn't abide by that. So I called the team back and I said, no, thank you. Also, as a teacher, I'd used up all my sick days, so I couldn't take off anyway. It's part of education. And I do remember walking to school the day after the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and as I turned the corner to go into my building, I realized that there's news vans lined up down the block in front of my high school. My principal's getting a little anxious. He said, Mr. Gonzalez, you got to get in here. And as I go into the conference room, there's reporters from CBS, NBC, ABC, and I don't walk to school the next day. As you can imagine, I run to school, thinking who's going to put me on TV today, maybe a podcast. A little bit of an Oprah fan, thought she might have a car for me. I was excited, and I run to school, and I turn the corner, and it's nobody, because fame is just that quick, isn't it? I like to tell the students I teach in high school and now as a college professor that, fame is what we do for ourselves, but greatness is what we do for others. Fame is about self-preservation. How long can we look good, right? But greatness, true greatness, it's the opposite. It's about self-sacrifice. How much can we give to improve somebody else? It's interesting in working with the Giants every year. I always quiz our rookies. And this is their profession, of course, professional football for however long it lasts. But I always ask them, I say, tell me the MVP, most valuable player of the NFL 2015. I've only had 2 rookies in 7 years actually know, and that's their job. But then I always simply ask them, well, tell me about the greatest teacher you ever had. They don't need to look on Google for that one. So tell me about greatest family member, what they did for you. It's interesting how we define greatness in our society and culture. We define it by influencers that have a bunch of followers on a social media network. When in reality, the greatest woman I know is my mom. She has 5 friends on Instagram. She has 4 kids. You do the math. She will never be an influencer. She'll never get verified. But she's great. I remember I signed my name in that Tuesday morning thinking we're done with this whole all-in thing, but I do enjoy the saying that says if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. There's some truth to that. And I remember I signed my name, I get to my classroom, and the secretary says, Mr. Gonzalez, you have a phone call. It's from the Giants. They're having this thing called the Victory Parade in the middle of New York City, and they wanted to know if you could join them. I get permission from our principal, and I remember I went to New York City that morning, and interesting enough, I started to see t-shirts. First couple of shirts I thought naturally was a coincidence, then I see hundreds and then thousands of the same exact shirt. Finally, one of the players, he hands me a shirt from the float, and he said, Mr. Gonzalez, I think you'll enjoy the 2 words our team voted to put on our official Super Bowl championship shirt. In fact, we're even going to have it engraved on the inside of our Super Bowl rings. And the 2 words they chose, interesting enough, was well the 2 words we talked about 7 weeks ago in that team room, and it was all in. And I said, man, that's pretty cool. So naturally, I go back to show my students. First period, they think it's great. By 3rd period, they could care less. I remember I put it on my desk and the phone rang, and I picked up the phone and the voice said, are you Mr. Gonzalez? I said, yes. It's the same one that talked to the Giants. They went on to win the Super Bowl. I said, yes again. At this point in the conversation, the voice started to turn quite drastically, becoming quite angry, yelling through the phone. I finally interrupt the voice and I said, sir, why are you yelling? Who are you? He said, Mr. Gonzalez, I'm the football coach for the high school where you work. Man, you really could have told us about all in. Our football team could have done that too. And I said, Coach, I didn't know it was going to work like that. And He said, well, Mr. Gonzalez, we start preseason conditioning in 2 weeks. You better come down to this weight room and work with our. I said, Coach, they're my students too, of course. And 2 weeks later, I walked down to our weight room, and I noticed every student in our football team is, of course, wearing a T-shirt. And we put 2 words on our football team's T-shirt as well at the high school. And I'll let you know, in Union City, New Jersey, if you're not familiar with the area, we are quite densely populated. So we actually don't have as much room to put a football field adjacent or next to our high school as traditionally the case. So interesting enough, we actually built our football field, yeah, that's it, 4 stories up on the roof of our high school. So that's us on Friday night. You know, as you can tell, it's perfectly safe. No one falls off after a touchdown. We have plenty of fences, but our kickers in particular enjoy trying to kick it off the fence, if that makes sense, after a field goal. Try to hit it down below. And I said, we're done. 2 weeks later, another phone call, Mr. Gonzalez. I think this is going in and out. That's cool. That's cool. Oh, thanks, Coach. It's cool. Oh, there we go. Cool. Cool. Thank you very much. There we go. Very quickly after that, it became a little bit of a whirlwind, let's just put it like that. And before I know it, I get a phone call from a team saying, Mr. Gonzalez, we know you work with the Giants. Would you mind speaking to us? I said, sure, give me your address. I could try to drive. They said, actually, Mr. Gonzalez, we need you to take the first plane to Chicago. Naturally, I said, as a teacher, I can't really fly to Chicago. They said, well, we talked to your superintendent. He's giving you the day off tomorrow, so I think you can. And I said, sure. And in Chicago, waiting was a team in the NBA known as the Portland Trailblazers. And they said, we made these T-shirts for our team to wear. We're going to play the Bulls tonight. Would you mind coming to the locker room telling us what this means? And great group of guys on the Trailblazers. They haven't won a championship yet, so we're not going to talk about them as much anymore. But they're in process. We're looking pretty good this year. And a team from the NHL known as the Minnesota Wild, and they said, we heard about your story. Would you mind working with us? I've never played hockey, but you know, quite an amazing sport. And they put all in on the back of their jerseys, which was quite fun. And then a phone call from London, England, saying, Mr. Gonzalez, we know you work with American football teams, but here in London, we play real football. Of course, it's soccer. And I said, well, I enjoy watching, though I personally, once again, have never played it. And get to go over to London, and turned out to be a team in the English Premier League. You might have heard of them. They're called the Arsenal Football Club. And they put all in on the back of their shirts, and they're having a pretty good season, top of the table right now. We'll see how it finishes, but then different organizations start to get involved. And first it's General Motors, where we speak to some of our Cadillac dealerships on the weekends, to, you know, PNC Bank, where we work with some of our branches. To remember getting the phone call to come down to Arkansas. And personally, I'd never been to Arkansas before, but turned out to be an organization, you might have heard of them too. They're called Walmart. And I was like, I shop at Walmart. That's not a problem. They said, actually, Mr. Gonzalez, this is not a local Walmart you would shop at. This is our shareholders meeting. Very important day for us here at our headquarters in Bentonville. And I'll be honest, I probably didn't realize how important it was for them until I was sitting backstage. And I remember looking to my left-hand side, and when I looked to my left, I realized that next to me was the actor Tom Cruise, who was a shareholder. Immediately, I get up to shake his hand because it's Tom Cruise, and then I realized in person, Tom Cruise was only about that tall. A little disappointed, but still, I mean, great actor, Top Gun, you know. But I would say the biggest honor for me, a lot of the students I work with, maybe some of your sons and daughters, they enjoy playing video games, and one that's been quite popular goes by the name of Call of Duty. You interact in the life of a soldier, complete different missions, and it's all good fun. But I always remind my students, it's one thing to play a video game. It's something else entirely different, getting the actual honor and privilege to work with our armed forces. And first there's getting to work with our cadets at the West Point Military Academy, not far from here. And then with our Air Force out west. And then every summer, it's been a privilege to get to step on bases throughout our nation and get to work with our United States Army. And one of the bases actually put this on the back of their training shirts. Because personally, I feel there's no one better to represent being all in than our armed forces men and women who give their lives for the liberties and freedoms we get to enjoy every single day. And we give them a quick round of applause for the sacrifice they make for us and our country. Yeah, it's incredible. the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, a lot of people aren't going to get it, are they? You understand it, but many people don't. Getting to learn more about what you do, the hours you put in, sacrifices you make. Sometimes it's thankless. And if you're like me, you might have some great family members at home, and they try to understand. And trust me, they're amazing, and we love them. They listen to us at dinner, say, "Yes, dear." But it still feels lonely sometimes, giving as much as you do. I remember being in San Diego not long ago, and an individual came up to me and said, "Mr. Gonzalez, thank you for sharing, but I think you're wasting your time." Maybe someone's told you that along the way. I was taken back by the comment, but he said, "Please don't take any offense." He said, "Mr. Gonzalez, you know, this all-in thing, man, it's just a great slogan. I don't know too much about living it, but it's a great slogan." He said, "I work in marketing. I actually come up with these kind of things all the time. I get paid by the click and the touch." And he said, "The thing I don't understand is, why do you still live in Union City, New Jersey?" He said, "No offense, I've been there. It's not that great. You know, you still work with students." He said, "Also, no offense, that there's just not a lot of profit in public education." I said, "Well, thank you for reminding me, but that's not why you should do anything. Those two reasons you gave, glamour. Yes, we all have bills to pay, but profit." I said, "For me, all in isn't a slogan. It's a lifestyle. It's something you choose to live. And secondly, it's something you do when you don't feel like it." I always remind my students when they come up to me and they say, "Mr. Gonzalez, I didn't feel very all in, so I didn't do your homework last night." I remind them it's cute, it's a good wordplay, but is commitment really ever a feeling? We know it's not. True commitment is when we do things at the pinnacle of us feeling the complete opposite, but we persevere anyway. And everything inside of us just wants to stay home, give up. That's commitment. You never feel it. It starts with our hands and our feet way before it comes out of our mouth. Needless to say, he didn't get the idea, and he kept on going on about how I should consider marketing or investment. And finally he said, "Mr. Gonzalez, at the end of the day, when you get to be as old as me, I think you'll finally realize all that matters in this life is how much you make per year." I said, "You know what, sir, I'm going to tell you a short story, and then I really got to go." See, I began to tell him about a young woman who was sitting in the doctor's office. And most of the time at the doctor's, we would prefer not to be there, but as she's sitting there, she's actually quite excited. Her name is called. She runs past the nurse into the examination room, sits up on the table, and lays back. She's so excited to be at the doctor's because she's going to see her child. And she lays back on the table, and the images flicker on the screen. Everything seems great, except the doctor walks out of the room, and the nurse follows. The nurse returns with a small card in her hand, hands it to her on the table, and then exits. The woman's curious, so she opens up the card, begins to read, and it says, "We're sorry to inform you, you've contracted the measles. Nothing's wrong with getting the measles. You get some small bumps on your body, fever or flu, a couple of weeks, it'll pass. But if you get the measles during this stage, we fear it's going to have very dangerous side effects." Also on the card said, "We cannot see certain limbs developing properly. We cannot see a properly developed arm or leg." And on the bottom of the card, it said, "There are numerous routes and safety precautions, one of them being termination, and try again at another time." The woman is crushed. Turns from being absolutely ecstatic to distraught in a matter of moments. The nurse returns and said, "Miss, I know this is very challenging, but how would you choose to proceed?" The woman sits up off the table. She says, "Thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your advice. But I'm going to try to stick with him. Whether he makes it for 2 more weeks, for 20 years, whether he has one properly developed arm or no arms, that's what I'm going to try to do. That's what I'm going to choose to do." And honestly, I'm so thankful for that woman, because see, that woman is my mom. And I was a child inside of her that day in the doctor's office. See, when people truly ask me what does all in mean to me, that's it. It's not a t-shirt. It's not a wristband. It's not even a Super Bowl trophy. And don't get me wrong, it's a privilege to get to work with the New York Giants every week. As crazy as it sounds, 7 years ago, they called me up and said, "We want you to join the team." I told them my students had to come first, and crazy enough, they said yes. So on a typical day, I get to work with students, and every Saturday morning, I jump on the team plane, speak to the team the night before games, and if you look closely on Sunday when we play the Eagles, you'll probably see me on the sidelines. And trust me, it's good fun to give Saquon Barkley a high five after a good touchdown run. And yeah, his legs are that big. But that's not all in. It's easy for us to be committed. We know that when things look good, we feel good. That's just common sense. I believe we in this room know what it is to be truly committed. That's why I talk about my mom, to give our best when the future is uncertain. It's not guaranteed. It's filled with setbacks, things that shouldn't have been on schedule, but they weren't. Are we still able to continue giving our best? See, I would love to say this was my mantra growing up, but it wasn't. I was far from it. My dad, he played football for a team called the Oakland Raiders, so I thought I was going to play football like him growing up, but started to get hit pretty hard sophomore year of high school, and so I switched sports to basketball. My mother got nervous about the whole thing. Didn't want me to get a permanent injury like my father suffered. And in sophomore year, I made a foolish decision. I decided I was tired of people making fun of me for losing because our basketball team wasn't so talented. So I just decided to stay home every time the basketball team lost. Seems innocuous, not a big deal. I guess I was just trying to avoid the derision in the hallways. But I had that one teacher. Pretty sure we all had that one teacher. I'll give you a second if you could remember them. Maybe it was 6th grade, maybe high school, maybe college, maybe not even a teacher, maybe it was more of a coach. We all had at least one in our life. It changed the way we thought, the way we acted. And I'll never forget the day Mr. Phillips, a world history teacher, it's funny how that works out, comes up to my desk and he says, "Mr. Gonzalez, I don't think you're really sick every time the basketball team loses and you stay home." I tried to argue it away, but he said, "Just listen to me. The great men and women that truly make a difference in history, which we study every day, and the millions more that will never be in these books, they did it because they gave everything they had, win or lose, life or death. I hope one day you can make the same choice." I'll let you know, no one ever talked to me that way before. He didn't do it embarrassingly in front of the whole class. He did it in a hushed tone. And then he told me he would give me 5 points on the next exam if I came to school. I needed the 5 points. So I came after the first loss, and the second, and the third. And I'll just put it this way, I went from barely playing a game I didn't enjoy to being all-state within 2 years for basketball. I went from barely passing my classes to being top 20 in my high school. Even got to be selected to play on this team to represent the whole state of New Jersey in the high school basketball national championships, and we won. Gold medals around our neck. Our coach said he was going to take us someplace very special to eat that night because we were, national champions. He took us to Denny's. Denny's is a great establishment, but it's Denny's. And I remember sitting there thinking of Mr. Phillips. And I think a lot of us have that same choice. But we give everything, even on the tough days. And you do. But it gets harder when you go up a little bit more. You see people getting ahead. Because I remember every teammate on that team, they got to go to great Division I universities. My point guard, Randy, he went to Villanova. He was a great player for them. And my other point guard, Max, he went to Princeton, full scholarship. John Kelly went to Penn State, full scholarship. Of course, he's 7'2". Who wouldn't give him a scholarship, right? Everybody except me. I don't get to go to Division I. I'm considered too small to play my position at that level. I'm only 6'4". And even though my dad sent out hundreds of video clips, everybody said, sorry. And so, as you heard, I went to a small Division III school called Montclair State, and it's not that glamorous. But Mr. Phillips told me before I left, he said, practice like Division I. Don't care about anything else. Give your best. And so I tried. Get up every day at 5 a.m., shoot 500 shots before class started. Our family can't afford a dorm on campus, so I put 2 chairs together in the middle of the library, sleep there in between classes, read my Bible, anything to pass the time before practice. And as you heard, by senior year, I got a phone call I didn't expect. And it was an invitation to play, be a part of the 2007 NBA draft and workout. Naturally, I don't get picked as high as Kevin Durant, Greg Oden. They're great players. But I finally get selected to play in Los Angeles. So excited to prove what I could do as a free agent. I remember we got in the room, the first day of training. It's about maybe 4 times the size of this room. Outside of the door, it said weight room, something, we're going to lift some weights. And I can do a little bit of that, and I'm quite confident. But we get in the room, there's no weights. There's no barbells, no benches, no dumbbells. A trainer comes up to me and begins to instruct us. I said, sir, where's the equipment? He said, Mr. Gonzalez, at this level, we don't need to see how much you think you can lift if you can't lift yourself. I didn't understand what he meant, but I soon learned. They would bring us in that room 3 times a day. They'd put 5 minutes on the clock. And the first day of NBA training camp, they made us do push-ups for 5 minutes straight without stopping. It's nearly impossible to do that. Your arms begin to shake something awful, and then they'd turn you on your side and ask you to hold something called a plank. You begin to bend in half. They'd get you up and ask you to run full court sprints, all body weight. And I remember when I got out there, very quickly I realized what they were trying to do. And I didn't respond well to it. Like I said, I didn't learn quickly. So the first game, when I'm not playing well, I go up to the team manager at halftime and I advise him that the sneakers the team gave me is throwing off my jump shot. They gave us Adidas because it was a sponsor of the NBA and I was used to wearing Jordan. 2 games in, still not performing well, I go up to the assistant coach at a timeout and I advise him the teammates they paired me with, we just didn't have enough chemistry, is how I'll put it. About my 3rd game, I called up my agent and I asked how long the coach was under contract. I didn't think he understood my abilities. But it's interesting when you're doing push-ups face down for 5 minutes every single morning, you start to realize very quickly, there's only one thing that keeps you face down on that ground. And it has very little to do with your sneakers, your teammates, or your coach. It's yourself. And I say this because I believe that this is a struggle we all go through. I know I do more than ever. Looking in the mirror and deciding to be all in, starting with me. See, where I'm from in Union City, we have 90,000 people that live in 1 square mile. We're the most densely populated city in all the United States, 28th in the world. Little fact. But in this 1 square mile, I was noticing that most of my students weren't making it to the end of the school year. They were ending up in jail. And it was so easy to sit in the teacher's lounge and blame our local politicians, saying, man, if we had better ones, my students wouldn't get shot at night or worse. But I love the phrase and the quote, it haunted me. That says, the arrogant look for someone to blame, but the humble look for something to solve. I think that's why we're in this room, because we're still humble enough to try to solve a problem. And so as silly as it sounds, I start to rent this building on the edge of our town. It's abandoned. It's not glamorous. It's about 6,000 square feet. I said, what if we open this up every day for any kid who wants to come? Free of charge. Just give them a place to go before they join a gang. Let them feel like they can be part of a family, even though they got cut by the basketball team. And the first day we got 5 kids. And I was discouraged. You guys know, starting this up, it hasn't been easy. There's discouragement along the way. You're learning new things, new processes. And I remember I thought of all the reasons that I could close in one day. But I realized I had to rent the building for another 29 more days, so I was paying for it anyway. And I said, we'll open up the next day. Because if those 5 kids come back and one of them brings a friend, you get 6. And with 6 kids and a basketball hoop in a corner and a couch donated from Raymore Flanagan, you can play 3-on-3 basketball. And that's worth it. And we got 6 the next day. And now 7 years later, we have 3,197 kids that come. They come from all over New York City, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. It's all free of charge. We even have this little app that they could go on and pick what classes they want to take, tutoring, how to make coffee, everything to keep them indoors. People ask me, what's the best part about it? The best part about it is that in 3 hours, we're going to open up. And I don't need to be there. Because in 3 hours when we open up, It's kids in my first world history class that are our program directors now, that are our tutors, trainers. There's a quote by John Maxwell that I enjoy a lot. It says, if you think you're a leader and you turn around and no one's following, you're just out for a walk. It's a little harsh, but there's some truth. And I know as leaders in this room, is it challenging to slow up sometimes, to be patient, to bring others along? Of course. Is it frustrating? No doubt. Do we get embarrassed sometimes? Yes. But is it worth it? I think so. You think so, or else you wouldn't be here. Because there's also a great African proverb I love that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. There's so much talent in this room. Every one of us could probably start our own nonprofit, LLC, corporation if we really wanted to. But if we just do it by ourselves, how long is that really going to last? We do it together. Our coach that we just got from the Bills, I like him. His name is Coach Dable, and getting to know him more each week. He has this quote in the locker room that I enjoy. He says, great teams, good teams are committed to winning, but great teams are committed to each other. I think that's true. If we're going to beat you guys on Sunday, we got to be committed to each other. I'll just put it that way, because you guys are way more talented. I'll give you that. See, I think you realize by now when I speak to the Giants, I don't talk about football. I'll never talk to the Giants about football. Lord knows they'll know more about how to try to stop Jalen Hurts or Smith or AJ than I ever would. I wouldn't waste their time. But when I speak to them the night before we play the Eagles, I ask them one question, usually to start our conversations. And that night a couple years ago, it was just one question. I said, what does it mean to be committed? Now, some guys said this and other guys said that. So I said, let's use an analogy we could all understand. I said, imagine we're playing a big game of poker right here in this room. And everyone pushes their chips in the middle of this team room. What does that signify? When Justin Tuck was on the team at the time, he raised his hand in the back of the room. I remember he said, well, that means you're all in. You're ready to win. You have a pretty good hand. You're not waiting for someone else to go first. I said, all right, that's great. Now, what would happen if you push your chips in? Things start getting a little nervous, a little anxious, and you just pull your chips back halfway through the hand and say you were just kidding about the whole thing. Remember, he smiled and he said, well, on a team with these guys, they'll get punched in the face. I said, Justin, you're right. We would never do it in a game of poker in this team room or in Vegas or any casino you can imagine. You can't touch the chips. You're right. But I said, why do we do it with our lives then? Why do we say we're going to be committed, and when things get a little difficult, you start looking for an exit strategy or an excuse? So I gave him a chip that night. It wasn't anything special about the chip. It wasn't magic. It wasn't blessed. It was actually from Walmart. And I gave him a marker. I said, if you mean business, you take this chip and you sign it. You put it someplace you see it. And when you see it, you just let it ask yourself the question, am I giving my best? And some guys took the chip and, excuse me, they were honest. They said they put it in their locker because they were just waiting for year 7. If you didn't know, in the NFL, year 7 means you can collect a full pension, full retirement, set for life, basically. They said they didn't care how they got there as long as they just got there. They could care less about the team or their teammates. They said they put it in their locker to remember to do it for the person next to them. Some of the guys, however, they took the chip and said they've been all in for their profession for 10 years. But they hadn't been very faithful or committed as a husband or a father to their family. They said that needed to change. They said they put it in their kitchen table. One of the guys in the video you saw, Antrell, he sent me a Twitter message 2 weeks after they won the Super Bowl to show me he got the words "all in" tattooed across his chest. We always have that one friend at the party that goes a little bit too far, right? Hopefully not at your holiday party, but you know what I'm talking about. And I remember saying, Antrell, I never told you to do that. He said, Gian Paul, I did it. I did it because, man, if it's just a t-shirt, I can keep on putting it on and taking it off just to look good when people are watching. But I'm starting to learn when you're really committed to something you love and something you care about, something you're proud of, it's going to come down to the things you do that nobody will ever see that are going to make the most difference. And I want to be reminded of that when I wake up in the morning and I look in the bathroom mirror. And he's right. We don't have to go row by row, but I'm pretty sure there's things each one of us has sacrificed. You've sacrificed. that nobody has any idea about. We need balance. We need work-life balance, but Lord knows there's times with your family you gave up for someone else's family to survive, to live. There's times I know I cry in my car because it just got so hard. You weren't sure if you could do it for one more day, but you're here. Thank you. You know this disease touches all of us. My brother, who's 2 years older, he contracted it 2 years ago. My uncle passed away from it. Thank you for what you do. I remember being in Hong Kong and someone came up to me and asked me what my all-in was. First and foremost, it starts with my faith. And secondly, that's when I took off this wedding ring. Because just like you, I'm trying to defy the odds. See, 88% of the students I work with in my city have no idea where their dad is right now. But I made a promise that despite me living, growing, and being born in that city, my 5-year-old daughter and my 2-year-old son are going to know who I am because I'm not going anywhere. That's where it starts for me. And where do I keep my chip? That's a part of the story a lot of people say I'm foolish for. Well, let's be honest. If you're in this room right now, you stopped caring what people had to say a long time ago. I called up my agent in California and I said, I no longer want to play professional basketball. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I want to go back to my city. I want to help people, try to make a difference. He said, I don't understand. This is a good contract. This is a good team. I said, that all might be true, but the greatest thing that changed my life had very little to do with watching Jordan's highlights on YouTube or buying his jersey. The greatest thing that changed my life were the people who chose to be in it, whether they realized they were impacting it or not. My teachers, my mom, coaches, youth pastor. So I came back home, became the greatest thing I thought I could become, a 9th grade world history teacher. And yeah, it's a little different than playing in the NBA, of course. But there's no better feeling than knowing you're making a difference. See, I finished with the fact a lot of people say, John Paul, you didn't answer one question. Why would the New York Giants call you up in the first place? Still doesn't make any sense. That's a good question. I called them up and asked them that too. How'd they even get my number? Their answer surprised me. See, when I came back from LA, I wanted to teach kids, but I didn't know that you need this thing called the teacher's certificate. I was unaware. So I had to go back to college and get one. As I was getting my certificate, taking night classes, I went to the only place that I could work with kids. I went to jail. I started tutoring in juvenile detention centers across our state. Kids 12 to 18 who have made a mistake. See, I believe you can make a mistake, but you being born was not a mistake. Still a plan. And as I was tutoring in this one juvenile detention center, one of the wardens recognized me and said, hey, you're that basketball player. What are you doing in my jail? I said, well, I'm just getting ready to be a teacher, so I thought it'd be okay if I tutored on Tuesday nights. He said, no, this is a good thing. I would love to start a basketball team in my jail. You know, it could be like that movie, The Gridiron Gang, and you look a little bit like The Rock, so maybe this could work out. And I said, sir, that's an exaggeration, but let's give it a shot. We're all in. We're willing to try new things. Change doesn't scare us as much. And so we start playing basketball in jail. And it starts to work. Eventually, they decide they want to buy us uniforms. They say, well, what do you want to call the team in this jail? You know, you guys play in jail, so it's got to be something tough, like jailbreakers or bar busters, you know, something with some grit. And I said, I really don't think so. I said, if I'm in charge of the program, I only want 2 words on our jersey. And these are the jerseys worn in jail. And this is the word on the front. Some people say it's kind of ironic. Why would you wear that in jail? It doesn't really belong there. I think there's no better place. There's a movie I enjoy a lot. You know, the type of movies you've seen 50 times before, but you still keep it on in the background while you're finishing up some work. Mine is called The Shawshank Redemption. And there's a quote at the end of the movie that's hard to forget. It says, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and a good thing never dies. It's true. See, the greatest thing about giving hope with our lives, with your life, with what you do every day here, there's our reverse side in the jail when we change colors. Is I believe when we give others hope, whether they realize it, that we're behind it or not, they start to believe they can have this. Now, you don't have to go to juvenile jails where I live in New Jersey to wear this jersey. From hearing what you do, I personally believe you wear that every single day, don't you? And yeah, when I called up the Giants and I asked how they got my number, they said, well, Mr. Gonzalez, 3 years ago, you were in jail, weren't you? I said, well, a tutor in jail. It's a little different. They said, no, Mr. Gonzalez, we know exactly what you do in jail. They said, you probably didn't know this, Mr. Gonzalez, but that one jail you would go to on Tuesday nights, it was right next to our practice facility right here in East Rutherford by our stadium. We heard about what you were doing. Our chaplain heard about it. And he, well, our speaker canceled, and so he thought you would be a good substitute. I like to remind my students when they see me on Sunday afternoons on the sidelines, whether in East Rutherford or Dallas or Philadelphia, I still haven't sent my resume into the Giants, and I still don't have 1 million views on YouTube. Their definitions of how you get successful. I like to remind them I'm only there because I wanted to do it for the least of these, and I thought nobody was watching. That's what we do, right? We give others hope, a future. We don't do it just to look good. We don't do it for fame. We do it for greatness. You have a chip on your chair. First things first, don't try to go to a live or a local casino. You can't get any money for it. I apologize. Sorry. But I know I'd be honored. I know it'd be a privilege to take the chip. Maybe on this part here, on a blank spot, you sign it. Put it someplace you see it. I don't know where it goes for you. Maybe you sign it and you put it on your desk. You put it and you sign it before you suit up in the warehouse, quality control. You know where it might go. Maybe you just need to glance at it. Remember why you started, what keeps you going for this profession that's not easy, but it's worth it. But maybe for some of you, this chip is a little bit deeper. It's not about your profession here. It's for you as a father, as a mother, maybe sister, brother for your family that have been through a tough time these past couple of years. Or maybe if I could go one step further, this chip is for you. You give so much, but you need to be poured into. Those promises you've made to yourself, those things called resolutions that we all made 11 months ago, how are they doing? Maybe we start to keep those promises to ourselves, to others, but especially to ourselves, because we can't pour out what we don't have inside of us anyway. Like I said, I don't know what your all-in looks like, but it'd be a privilege. Take the chip, sign it, put it someplace you see it. Continue to show others that for you, all-in was never a slogan on a t-shirt. It was always a lifestyle. Thanks so much for the work you guys do. God bless you guys.
Thank you, Gian Paul. Let's give another round of applause. Great talk. Thank you so much. So I know we're standing between you and everyone in lunch. So we'll get to our last topic, just for questions. So I know, I think, Taylor, hopefully we have a working microphone. Any questions you guys have? We can answer. It's pretty quiet. Another quiet time. Okay. If you guys are all hungry, again, anytime you guys do have questions, please stop by, talk to you all across LT. I know we've had a lot going on here at Iovance, not only at ICTC, A lot of moving parts, a lot of new things we're doing, a lot of things going on in terms of our schedules. So please feel free to ask any of us questions throughout any time. It doesn't have to be at town hall. We're always here to talk to you guys. So, all right. Enjoy lunch.